Hey Mika, is it time? Are you gonna open the video for us? You already did. Well guys, it's finally time. We're gonna remove the 3.6 liter engine because I'm doing the hemi swap. Now, if you are going to just be removing your 3.6 and replacing it with another 3.6, you can still use this video because I'm not gonna actually show the hemi installation portion, just the removal of the 3.6 in this one. So, let's start with a couple of things that you need to consider. One, have lots, and I mean lots, of shop towels available because you're gonna make a mess. If you have an old tarp, I would highly suggest you bring it out. First thing you're gonna wanna do, I know, the safety part is important, Mika, please. You're gonna wanna make sure you have some stable jack stands just in case you have to lift the Jeep at all. We are gonna be dealing with some heavy components. As you can see, I've used some packing materials to protect my fender flares. You can choose to do this if you'd like. Again, I've got 3 layers of this paper on there, as well as some Amazon packages, because why not? They're bubbly. And then some bubbles that arrived, I'm using to space the hood out, because why not? And let's get over to the AC, because yes, you're gonna want to discharge your AC. It's gonna make your life a heck of a lot easier, but one thing I'm going to tell you with this, do not by any means vent to atmosphere with this AC system if you have a 2015 Jeep like me. Why? Because we have newer Freon in there and it's a type R. Now you need a specialty machine to remove it, and make sure you tell them that you have R1234, whatever it is. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an R series Freon. And if you vent it to atmosphere, why am I telling you not? Well, not only are you really putting fluffy bunnies and other things at risk because it's bad for the environment, but it's majorly because if you do it, that Freon is extremely expensive. And if you were to go to a place and they drain the system, and when you go back, they recharge the system, they can actually save that Freon in their machine. And technically, they should be giving you that amount back for free, basically. And then they'll just charge you for the additional, if there's any additional fluid that they have to add. And that's just fluid. They're still going to charge you their shop costs, so don't be shocked. But yeah, don't vent it to atmosphere. I have talked to a couple people about this that have made that mistake with this new Freon, and it can cost you $1,000 in a heartbeat. So don't do it. Okay, and that's why I'm telling you to go get it drained, so that way you can not have a chance of damaging one of your AC lines, which are expensive as they are, and then you have to go get it recharged. Not to mention you're going to inhale the gas if you damage the line. Okay, first things first. What I would really suggest we do is I think we're going to drain fluids first. It's the easiest thing to do. First thing that we are going to do is we're not going to drain the oil. Leave the oil in the engine. There's no point in draining the oil. But what we do need to drain is the coolant. All the coolant, or as much as we can, we want to get out of there. And when I'm draining the coolant, well, Mika won't be allowed in here. That's why she's so sad right now. Because if your dog licks up the coolant, well, that could either be a vet trip or death. So just something to think about. First step, let's loosen off our negative. The reason why, we're going to have to remove the battery tray, or it's best to. If you remove the battery tray, best thing is, it won't get in your way, because there's a lot of stuff we're going to have to do anyway. So, move this right out of the way, and then what I would end up doing too is removing the positive, because we're not going to need the battery anymore for a little while. Once again, I highly suggest you remove your battery before we start doing any electrical components. And it's also good practice to remove the battery. Like I said, always first before electrical. Once you've gone ahead and pulled the 2 battery terminals off, which are 10 mil by the way, just loosen that center bolt like I did and wiggle it loose. Come down there. If hocus pocus, see that bolt right there? Loosen it up. What this is going to do is release your battery. We want to go as much as we can on that, and then once we do and our battery wiggles loose, lift your battery up and out, and then there's absolutely no chance of electricity going through your vehicle while we do this. When you've loosened it enough, put the bolt and the piece off to the side. This piece, just lift it up and put it over here. I'll cut that zap strap later. All this is going to be disconnected later anyway. And then, I don't want to lift that out with the camera in my hand, but yeah, lift out your battery. So we're at the bottom of our radiator right now. And as you can see, if I can do this without blocking the light, right there on the passenger side corner of the radiator, closest to the bumper, you will see a little nozzle. And I've put this red tube on here so that way I can drain it through the tube. Now, let's be honest here for a second. When I open that up, there's a high chance this is just going to start pouring out of there, and it's going to pour out of the threads in the back over here as well. You can see my finger, probably not, because I'm trying to get lighting here, right there. That's your peacock valve. So we're going to open this up, and what's going to happen is it's going to start draining the radiator. This way takes very, very long. What a lot of people will do is they'll just get a massive bucket, massive, and they'll crack that open, and it's just going to make one heck of a mess. So this way, I'm going to try draining it. It's going to drain slower, which is fine because I have a lot to do up top. If you want it to just drain like crazy, then go ahead and don't use a tube. Don't put it on that nipple that's going to be right there, and literally just let it rain. Well, it didn't really give me a choice. I backed it off, and then, well, I backed it off too much, so here we are. Just let it drain. Every once in a while you might hear it stop. Give these a squeeze. Also, pop open your radiator cap if you so wish. As you pulse this, you'll hear it because it'll pump a little bit of air into the system. And when it does, it'll force more fluid out. Trust me, the more coolant you can get out of your system, the happier person you will be, because it makes a mess. You are going to get coolant everywhere when you pull this motor out, probably. But if you can minimize it, it's a good day. And if you can reach the bottom hose, make sure you pump it a few times too, because the bottom hose, of course, is going to have the most in it. But while that's going on, 8mm, go ahead. I would just loosen these clamps first. Gonna make our life a little bit easier. There we go. Now that those are done, go ahead. Let's grab the 8mm. I'm kidding, that was the 8. This is the 10. Who was I even playing that joke on? I don't even know. Now this should stay in here. If it doesn't, which, hey look, it's not. Ta-da! Best thing to do is, first off, now that we've drained our coolant, oh look, there's a little bit still in there. Take this and put it just over here, wherever you want to put it. Hopefully, let's see, can we hook it on my hood prop? Yep, because I left my hood prop there. Okay, so once we've done that, pop that. And pop the one down there. And the one right here. And one right here. Once we've done that, you can lift this up and we can wiggle this off. Now, we might have a little fun here. We have to pull this tube out. Now, remember this, it just pulls backward. There's nothing actually holding it on. So just grab it and pull back. After that, lift this out. Once you pull that out, you can lift this up, literally just lift and put it off to there. From there, squeeze the center of this clip right here and slide the duct tab out like that. Now that we have that out, piece is free. Put it off to the side. You're going to be making quite the pile. Next thing you're going to want to do is remove your reservoir. I like to have these little pry tools because you can get these barbs started. So as you can see, we'll see if we can get it. Probably not. But I like to just lift it out a little bit, just so you have a little bit of room. Sometimes you can get it with these, but man, those clips can be real fun. So then you get something like this, which is the Christmas tree barb style tool. And if you can get in there to lift this out, you're having a good day. As you can see, I am not. Oh, come on. As you can see, there's a lot of dirt in there. When you get a lot of dirt in these, they don't like to come out. Oh, and my day just got better. I got around the center there and it popped forward. We're going to be doing a lot of those today. Pop out the center if you have to, and then all you got to do is pop out this piece right here. Let's just see if I can get it with this. Just like that. All right, now that that's like that, grab your hose, keep it up, and lift this straight up. Just like that. Let's put this off to the side, grab this piece, and pull up. It should come out just like that. We're not going to be using this anymore. Well, I'm not. I'm switching to another intake. But you should definitely keep those pieces together. You'll see these rubber grommets. We're going to have some bolts down here. Look how much room we're already getting in here. We can see quite clearly. Go ahead and squeeze this a little bit. If you have 4 flat blades, one slides in like there, one slides in right here. Again, we're just separating these so that way, let's see if I can actually show you there. See how there's that? Just separate in between that area right there. Do the same over here. And just jam this in there. And then we'll grab another flat blade. We'll do this side. And then we'll do another flat blade over here. Just like this. Okay. Then you should be able to lift the tip out. Now if it feels stuck on one side, it probably is. So try it again. And lift up. Jeez. That one corner is just not wanting to let go for me. So let's use this screwdriver since it works so good on the other side. There we go. Now that side's out completely. Now let's see if we can get this side out completely. There we go. Aha. Now that that's out, remove your screwdrivers. And this is why we protect our Fender flares. Oh, don't go back in on me. Now that that's like this, I'm going to plug this onto the tripod so we can do this. See if I can do it with my finger. Probably not.
go up, just like that. See how I flipped it up? And then lift this, and it should pull your plug out. If it doesn't, wiggle as you go. Now, one thing I will say,
Keep in mind the order.
blue, green. See this? It's got an orange dot on it. And just basically take a picture of the wiring colors as you pop each of them out. Aha, there we go. You might, like I said, have to wiggle the connector. As you wiggle it, lift, and it will come out, just like that. So, as you lift, don't completely just try to use the lever right here, because if you do, there's a big chance that you're just going to break the lever off. So these bottom ones, just grab with your finger and you have to lift. You could also use a flat blade if you want, just careful. See? Just like that. Lift out. Comes up. The center one, just trot there, just like that. Thought that was going to be a little bit harder. Squeeze the tab in the center of it. Should be able to wiggle it out. Again, depending if any mud or stuff has gotten in here, it's going to be fun. There we go. And then, again, we have another one just over here. I'll slide the flat blade under the corner of it. Lift that out of the way. And now we've got some in the back there. Now those ones are going to be the most fun. We have to, let's see here. There's a centerpiece right here. You should be able to lift after that, I think. That's how these ones work. You press the center and lift up. If I get it, I'll show you. Ah, I see it. Let's see if we can click it down. Basically, in the center, right here. Oh, that's how. Just like that. So, let's show you. Right here in the center, press it in, and then you can pull the lever. Ah, look, I can show you way easier with this one, maybe. Right here, press in. You'll see it'll squeeze in from pressure of the lever already. You pull it in. Put this off to the side. Be extremely, extremely careful with this little piece right here. You might be wondering why, because it's not just a fuse box. It's an entire computer-like system that if this gets damaged, you will wish you didn't damage it. 100% you will. So, as you can see, this goes into here. Let's open up our fuse box. Let's remove that bolt right there so we can put this somewhere safe. Go here, you can hit it a couple times like this, and then just remove that bolt. Now when you remove this bolt, I'm going to tell you what to do with it. Turn it a little bit to the left. So, go like that. Bam, now you can't lose it. Close this up, put it somewhere safe. Now that that tip is out of the way, let's move this power steering hose holder right here. We'll just go underneath it if we can get underneath it and lift it out. Oh, come on. Perfect. Just like that. Now that that's out of the way, we can move the hose around to be able to get that screw. So now we're going to remove that 10 mil, this 10 mil, and then these three right here. Once we do that, this box should be pretty loose. Oh, and then we have to get this 10 mil right here. Go ahead here. Another safety right there. Perfect. Push it out with your finger so it comes out the other side. Compress. Probably not enough. Oh, there we go. Bam, that's unplugged. Heck, if you wanted to, you could just put that off to the side. First, we gotta pop its thing off the box. Ta-da! Now that can be moved around. Let's see. Oh, look, another wire thing right here on the box. Boom. Start feeling them out. There's another one right here. There we go. And there's of course going to be one right here, but let's get this clip out of the way first. So for this clip, we know we need to lift, but we have to compress. I believe it's the center. Let's see. It's definitely, oh, it's just that right there. So just like this, then lift. That comes out. Perfect. One more clip to wiggle our way out of, which is right here. Trying to see if I can show you guys it, but that module is just, there we go. That module you probably don't have. This is for my rock lights. So now that that's free, let's see. Oh look, another one right here. So come down here once again. That little gray one. We're literally just removing all of these so our box is a little more free. And let's see. Is that it? I think that's about it. That seems free. Oh, the clip itself is on one. There we go. That's now free. Perfect. So, as you can see, I just put that bolt back in here. That was the battery bolt. I did the same with those two because now I don't have any bolts that are just lying around and I don't know where they all go. Let's go ahead, grab our 10 mil. I'm just gonna grab it right now. Start loosening these off. That one. These ones back here. These ones actually might be 8s. Let me see. No. Don't forget these guys back here. Let's see here. This is the problem. I gotta turn that light off under the car. What it does is it shines up and then the camera will fade to black. So there's the second, and then there's one more, the third one, which is right there. See that one? So remove those 3. After we do that, we need to get rid of this one, and that one. And I'm just seeing, nope, that's it. Just get rid of those. Now the one right here, beside the battery holder, that one is gonna be nice and tight. And the reason why is because it sits below the vehicle, so chances are it's rusted. So if you want to and you have your fender flares off, you can always access it through there. But wait till you see, after we get this bolt out, how much room we're gonna have on this side of the motor. Power steering reservoir. Take this bolt out so we can move the power steering out of the way. So first thing, take the reservoir. 10 millimeter. So let's show you. Right here, you want to work that tip out first. You want to get the tip up and around that power steering bolt. Once you do that, see how it's up like this? Now you start pulling it this way.
Now be careful with your wiring harnesses.
It's time to start working it past them. There's so many items in here, especially for me because I just keep adding stuff. So you can see that. Work this up around here. Work this up here. This up and around here. And there she be. Out of the way.
Well, look at that. We can see the floor. That's our shock. If you don't have fender wells in. So, from here, if you've been like me and you've added any zap straps, I would just cut them for now. Get them all out of the way. Unplug the big connector. Okay, I'll do it. Okay. Right here. Just squeeze that. Work it out. And go ahead and wiggle, wiggle. Once that's there, go ahead, grab your popper and just go ahead and pop that off of this piece of plastic right here. Let's go ahead and move this little canister. So you'll see these two little feet in here. Just push. You gotta basically work them out. That one goes out. And this one comes out. If you work them both out, that center clip comes right out. And this slips out. Alright, maybe I gotta pop it out all the way. Let's see. They like to get snagged, just a warning. If you end up breaking one of these clips, I'm sure you could get another one if you really wanted to. I'm actually deleting this from my system in the long run. I don't want to, I don't need this. This is just like a little check valve that goes to your gas tank. And this is what sends the engine code if your gas cap isn't tightened on all the way. It's up to you. It's nothing big. It's just a little thing in the software, and I'd rather just not have it anymore. Next thing you're going to see down here are these little clips. Now, keep in mind, I've been under this TIP'em before, so that's why these clips, they didn't last for me. Just don't feel sad if the clips that hold it against the firewall break. They break ridiculously easy, and I mean ridiculously. All right, as you can see, those are now free. Just, if I were you, disconnect them both for now. Chances are it'll be easier in the long run to wire find doing so. There we go. Perfect. Now this is disconnected from here. This is disconnected from here. This side is attached to the firewall. Actually, they're both attached to the firewall, but who's counting? All right. Now we've got a little bit more sense to our wiring, as you can see. Technically, we should be able to almost, oh, except for this ground. That's why. There's a ground right here. But we'll leave that ground. That's fine. All we really want to know when we're doing this is what is attached to the engine. See that ground? I found the ground strap. Had the strap go to right here, which was a 10 mil. I decided just to take it off the firewall and leave the ground strap on because, well, your new engine might have it. If it doesn't, transfer it over and you'll know where it goes because that little strap's right there. Well, look at that. I think for right now, this will be good enough. This right here is going to be part of the engine side that comes out. So we'll get all that afterwards. We're probably going to end up taking this ground off just because I can see how this is that big harness that goes just to the engine, not up under the firewall. That tells me that we're going to want this to move around easily. So two things. One, I'm going to grab my 10 mil here and quickly loosen this off. And then that way I can technically put this ground clamp off to the side. And then this positive, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to loosen these off
So that way we just have the wires sitting inside of here and this sitting right here. And we're gonna also drop this 10 mil right here and get this ground out of here. So that way this entire piece is free and attached to the engine still. Once you crack that 10 mil loose, you can take your ground wire, that's right here, and put it off to the side. It seems like it's about 8 gauge. I'm going to be upgrading this, of course, to a 0 gauge ground because of the new alternator. So now that that's all done, this is here. Now, very important note. Note that the wire, although black on the tip, is red in the sheath. This is a power wire. This went onto here. I'm also making this as a note to myself to remind myself this goes onto the power side, not the ground side, because there's red within the sheath. So I think we're getting close. This is just over there. I mean, on this side close, not quite pulling the motor close. Now that we've done that, one thing I'm going to suggest we do later on is we're going to climb under the vehicle and we're going to actually take the exhaust bracket off down there, not up here. The manifold is a great spot for us to chain onto to lift the engine out. So definitely I would leave this, and then we can also leave all these O2 sensors on here. So now that we know we've got that ground, this is free. Again, we're going to investigate a little bit more for the wiring that we've taken off. I think we are safe to go to the other side. Now, another thing that we could do technically is come over here and start taking a look at this harness. See this harness that comes here? What we're going to be doing is removing the whole front end here. When we do that, we're going to have to disconnect this wiring harness in its entirety. So for example, let's take off this big clip. It's super easy. Just pinch and pull out. There, your fan's disconnected. I think we could probably just put our radiator cap back on for right now. That seems like it's done peeing for a bit. Yeah. All right. This I don't have to worry about. This is actually going to my front light bar, which has nothing to do with this front piece. So I think before we go after that front piece though, which is going to come up pretty quickly here, we'll leave all this and move over there. The fun part is going to be, we need to be careful with that heater core block way in the back there. When we're lifting this out, you do not want to catch these and rip that off. Nothing like that. That's very bad news. I'm gonna try and remove this clamp. Might end up just removing the whole tube, and probably one size too big. So what a lot of people will do is they'll actually do this with vice grips. And the reason why is if you do, you're just gonna hold it anyway. Look at that. So do that to that side, and then we can remove that pipe out of there. When you pop it off, don't be surprised if more fluid starts coming out because you're letting more air into the system. So what we've done now is we've popped that off, and of course a little bit of fluid came out. That's totally normal. That's why we have all those shop rags for afterwards. You can either wipe it up immediately or wipe it up after, because I can guarantee you we're gonna have more fluids. When we pull those heater core lines from right there and right there, those are gonna let out some fluid. And that bottom radiator hose, 100% is gonna let go of some fluid. Because see how as it twists down like that, comes back up, and then to right here, 100% there's gonna be fluid in that pipe. So what we're gonna do is after we've got a lot of this drained out, we're gonna move our bucket right there by the diff, because 100% fluid's coming out right there. And we wanna get rid of all of the coolant lines first. That way we can drain our coolant bucket and get ready for our power steering. Remember this petcock valve that we pulled out? What I would suggest you do is, now that it's just lightly dripping, go ahead and put this in. Because what we're gonna do is move that bucket to catch the rest of that fluid that's gonna drain out of the bottom. So as you can see, I've put another tray right under to the corner side of the diff. What this is going to do is catch more fluid when we pop off that bottom radiator hose, and then we're going to actually bend it down towards the tray so that way that fills up with more fluid.
Now, if you can't get that valve back in, which mine's playing hunky-dory, which is fine, I'm not going to be using that radiator anymore. I've just put another pan right there, and then right there, right under the diff in the corner, you want to line up to that tube, plus pull it forward, because when you open it up, the fluid's of course going to pour forward, and it's going to hit this. It's going to bounce into here, but of course it's going to end up everywhere. Like I said, this is why we have shop towels. So let's go ahead, go up top, and if we go down right there, we're going to pull that pipe first and then try and aim it towards the bucket. Chances are it's not going to go as planned. It's going to make a mess. So my tripod decided to aim down as I was doing it, and I didn't notice because I was looking at the pipe. But all I did is I used a pair of vice grips once again, grabbed the clamp, moved it off the radiator tube, wiggled off, and bent it down and into the bucket down there. Like I said, there's going to be a mess no matter what you do, but this kind of is the best case scenario. So like I said, pull it off, kind of slowly move it down and aim it for the bucket, let it drain, and then squeeze it around the steering stabilizer and right into the bucket. From there, if you want to, we can actually move these lines from up here. And what's cool is if you take them off of the motor side from up here, well actually, if you want, try and give them a couple pumps and you'll probably hear some more fluid go. But if we're looking right here, you'll be able to see this line right here. What I'm going to probably do, just to make it easier on myself, is take it off of right here. And again, chances are, full of fluid, gonna make a mess, nothing you can really do. If you want, you can try and bring a tray up here, but like I said, I can't see it making any sort of difference. Okay. Perfect. And what else? We got that one, and we'll take care of transmission afterwards. I think we're good now to pull these lines out. Now another thing, if you wanted to, take out really quickly these two 10 mils. Pliers, grab them, grab the hose, and as you'll have to crack it loose, but after you do, you just wiggle it. And like I told you, this is going to make a heck of a mess. I'm actually going to try and move my bucket right there. And you will crack it loose and it'll start coming. Going to take a quick break there from doing the radiator stuff. Want to just get some of the vacuum stuff done. Just pull that forward to see that this is right here. Pop that out and tuck this vacuum line out of the way. You do not want to break anything here. So now that that vacuum line is kind of out of the way, you'll see that this AC line right here, well, we need to get this free so we can get that AC bolt. How you do it is grab the big wiring harness and pull it up towards you. That's the one attached to this big brown connector. And then we can move the big brown connector up here a little bit out of the way. Again, this is attached to all the engine components. So we want to leave that with the block heater plug right here. So that way we know that it's not going to get caught when we pull the engine out. So now that that's free and off to the side, if you've discharged your AC system, technically now you can actually remove your AC lines from here. And what we want to do is get rid of the ones that are going
towards this grill first, because we're gonna actually remove this entire section soon. When we remove this entire section, it's gonna be fun. Heck, why don't we just start doing that? Because once we get there, it's gonna get a lot better. So first thing you're gonna wanna do, again, just get this in here, pop these clips up, just like that. I must have had these clips out at least 100 times from changing different headlights and going in here. Oh, and of course that can happen. Just put these off to the side. We are going to make sure we keep these somewhere safe so you don't lose them. This, if they get stuck in there, you can just simply stick this underneath and fold it up, and then look at that. Just like this. The reason why we have to take the face off the Jeep is so that way you have room for the engine to go in and out. The other reason why we're doing this the way we are is because there's a wiring harness in here. We need to disconnect to be able to remove the front end off the Jeep to make this easier. Once you have all those clips, see how it's like this? Just grab right here. You just pop forward on all these metal clips and this will come off. Now, you will have to lift this up a little bit and there'll be some connectors right here. I don't know if you can see that, but you'll see the little red. Actually, let me just grab the camera and bring it closer. For these, slide it back, just like that. Slide the red piece back, squeeze, and release. Do that to the other side. What I would suggest doing with this is actually put it inside the Jeep. Then the paint's not gonna get scratched up. So let's go and start disconnecting some wiring harnesses. Just pinch and pull. You'll see this is clipped onto here. Slide it forward, slide it forward. You'll see I have a wire right here. I'm gonna have to move that wire and get it out of the way. So I have those zap straps to unclip. You won't need to do that because you won't have it there. Just in case you see it and you're like, why does he have that and I don't? Next thing you're gonna have is this. Take this forward, right here, just like that. And now we come around to underneath. Oh, there's another one right up there. You're not gonna be able to see it in my lighting, that's for sure. There we go. So that's down right here. Now we come around to this side. And we'll see it right here, that this harness. So we need to pop that tab right there and unplug our AC line right here. So unplug the AC line, just like we've been doing with all the other ones, and just keep popping these tabs out. We just need to undo this so we can pull this wiring harness out of here. From this point, you're either A, gonna have to pop your headlight out, so that way you can access all this, or B, if you have your fender liners out like I do, then you can come in here and let's see if we can get this to focus. That. So from this point, you'll see that we can remove this plug. Now, you'll have another duct tab up here to remove too. Now, what I suggest you do is grab your popper, and we're gonna have to pop these off anyway. Just slide it underneath our connector and pop it off. There we go. Apparently not all the way there. Okay, there. And the next one, which was down here. There we go. So that's all unplugged. Not unplugged, but disconnected. From here, now you can access those easier. Compress the tab, slide it out. Same with the gray connector up there. And then do the same with your headlight connector. For safety reasons, I've decided to remove the headlights. You just don't want this to slip by accident, land on the headlights and smash them. So, pull out these Torx, I think they're T25s, 4 T25s, slide out the headlight, put them somewhere safe, and I would just bolt the ring right back onto here. Or at least the screws, that way you don't lose them. T25, go to the bottom, take this out, take out the two bottom ones like I said first. I don't even know if this is T25 or T27, but either way you'll figure it out. Just like that. And again, I'm putting these screws right here, but these screws are going to go right back in. And these are going to go on my passenger seat. And the reason why is, I can tell you now, if you're not careful with them, you'll either A, break them, or scratch them. Just like that. I'm going to take this right from here, slide my connector out. As you can see, that's my own Deutsch connectors. And from there, take a look at that. We have the airbag pressure sensor there and one in the other light. We'll be pulling those out and I'll show you how in a sec. There's a little tab in here. What you need to do is get in here and we have to bend it up a little bit. So come out and you can move it. There. There. Once again, make sure whatever you do, your battery is disconnected before you start unplugging stuff like this. I mean, that's why I did the battery first. Once you've gone through, you'll have all those disconnected wires right here, and you'll be like, oh, but there's this one. How do I even dream about getting that? Just squeeze it out. I like to do it just from this end. You'll be able to, once you get it to a certain point, you should be able to just press it out. Just like that. There. Then we should be able to bring it down right here. Make sure everything is disconnected. Oh! I think, I missed the horn one. Yeah, just the horn. These horn tabs are really fun. If you take a look at the very tip of the connector, compress and pull out. So just look for that little tab. Once you do that, you'll notice we have another one of those right there. Let's go ahead and make sure we get that out. There we go. And tuck it in. Let's make this whole section free. And from here, just put this over here. And that's it. We shouldn't be connected at all to that part of the frame anymore. Yeah, that's it. So from here, let's take a look at where we're at. Everything is disconnected over here. Nothing is still connected. If we come to this side, you can see that. That is attached to the frame there. You don't have to touch that right now. That's your power steering. But what we do need to do is drop our power steering line off of the power steering cooler, which is right here. So this is going to definitely be dropped in a second. Next thing you're going to want to do is, see right here, we've got this. This is for your AC. So as long as your AC is been discharged, that'll be fine. Now the really troublesome one, believe it or not, the transmission one. It's at the very bottom of this radiator and it's super fun to get at for the two bolts for it. So what we're gonna do first, I think, is we're gonna just get the power steering one out of the way, see what we have to do to kind of make it easier on ourselves. After we get the power steering lines out of the way, we'll move up to AC, disconnect the AC lines, and then last but not least, we're just going to disconnect the transmission lines at the bottom there. So, pop a 13 mil on here, loosen off the bolt. And again, one thing that you're going to want to do, which I will go and purchase before I put this back on, is new O-rings. It's always a good idea. As you can see, our AC system is discharged. If it wasn't, that would have been a lot messier. Do the next one. Just go ahead, take the bolt out, and then put it over there. What I'm going to do is going to take these off, and then after we do that, Just like that. Not even that bad. Could have been a heck of a lot worse. If you wanted to, leave this bolt in here. And again, with the AC lines on the AC condenser side, just lightly screw those bolts back in as well. Then you don't have to worry. So now that this is free, we can technically lift this past this line. It's either you do that, or you could of course disconnect the lines and remove them completely. Right there, see that bolt hole? Oh, there. In between the two silver pieces, that little 10 mil right there. Make sure you disconnect that as well. 13 millimeter ratchet, bring it in through here, wrap your hand around through here. You can totally see that bolt right here. And just start loosening this bolt. You can see it's turning right there, and hey look, you can even turn it from this side if you got gloves on with some grip. Once you get near the end though, try and get in there with your ratchet. And now we've gotten to a point it's so loose that that will no longer work. Easiest way to get this bolt, take your ratchet, wrap it around past the shock ring, not the shock, but the body mount. So wrap it around the body mount, feel for it, and crank her loose. And yeah, just do that. Right here, see this little wing? 10 mil from the back side, aiming towards the engine. Get a 10 mil on there. Last but not least, 13. Crack them all loose first. So next thing we need to do is get this out of the way. Wiggle it a little bit, and pick it up. And what we're looking for is anything that's still trying to catch. Like for example, I just found the wiring harness is loose right here. That we can't have. So, right here behind the headlight is another popper. You need to pop that out. And then you can make sure that connector is free. Totally missed this one. That's why we always do it slow and gentle. It's climbing up, there's reasons why. Okay. This is now free. Now what happens if I go to lift it? What's catching next? Oh, there's two pins. There's two big metal dowels that slide in right where between these two screws. So there's a big metal dowel. So make sure that you free that dowel, and then we'll see if we can do that with the line in there. All right, once that's free, we'll get it to here. Now I want to start moving our transmission line out of the way. Just like that. Okay. Oh yeah. I don't like having to deal with radiator fluid all the time, so what I did, since I would be replacing the radiator pipes, if you aren't, that's up to you. But when you're doing engine swaps, it's just nice to start with fresh tubes, piping, whatever. I just took the old one from the bottom, wrapped it up like an S, and put it on here. I'm actually going to put the clamps back on, but what that's going to do is keep the fluid inside the motor and in that pipe rather than leaking everywhere all the time. So now that I've done that, I might even just quickly put these clamps on so it doesn't pop off, and then I can move my bucket around because, well, we no longer have fluid worry. Just so I can show you exactly what I was talking about. You can sort of see it there. It S's and then goes right back into itself. Did like I did last time, just grabbed with the pliers and wiggled, off she came. Let's back this out. The next thing that you need to do, right here, move these two clips back. Let's get these metal hoses right out of the way so that way it's just the two rubbers on here.
way easier to work with, way cleaner workplace. Like I said, pull these two clips, push them back, and then we'll grab these pipes, twist them, and move these somewhere safe. After we've got that, I think we're done this side pretty much. Yeah, other than the power steering pump, this side's done. Put my tray up here. Next thing I'm gonna do is, well, technically I guess I could just dump this reservoir inside of there. So let's do it, if you'll let me. There we go. Just simply like that. Now, we're not going to get all of it, obviously, but it's just going to help the process. Because after we're done this, we're going to delete the reservoir here. And then we're going to get the lines out of the way that we don't want connected to the motor. So, just like that. Ooh, that might work too. Let's see. That to our heart's content. Go ahead, make this bigger. Move it down, just like that. So with this little guy. Once you hear that noticeable crack, like it sounds like you broke something, go ahead and pop this out. Hold it right here. This, when it's done, if you want to, because it'll drip forever, you could just store it like this. Wipe the tip and then store it like this. See, don't drip. Put this off to the side. And then from here, we're going to drop this line off of here, which is going to make a mess. So you can either A, go and undo every single bolt along here, along this line, and then drain it from there. Because what it does is it goes like this. It goes down, then up, and then over. No matter what, you're going to have a mess. So enjoy. So from this point, you could just leave this tube on here, but I just hate having things dangling off of here when I'm trying to move stuff. So I'm really big on just getting this stuff out of the way. Let's see if this will work for me. If not, I'm just gonna grab my vice grips once more. There we go. Vice grips just work so much better. And then grab again, noticeable twist, and pull it off. There we go. And you can see when you do that, the pump is full. So it's going to drain out when we do this. Well, since that wasn't that bad, if you wanted to, you could use a suction fluid extractor, which I'm probably going to do, and just suck out this bit of power steering fluid here, just so that way it's not sitting there and making a mess constantly. So the next thing we got to do are those AC lines. So if you take a look, they have these safeties on here, so that way somebody doesn't accidentally pop these bolts off. Because if they do, then they lose the Freon, which is bad for the environment, as you've heard me say 100 times. So you take that off, and then we go in there with a socket. I hope this is the right size. Should have probably gone with a longer socket.
All right.
So it's a 13. So take those two 13 mils out and then put them somewhere safe. And the AC lines are all disconnected. This is the other part of the engine side of the PCM. This is your block heater wire. We're just tucking this in here. And other than that, it looks like everything's disconnected. Bottom of the vehicle, you're gonna see your flange right here. This is connecting your Y pipe, which is right here, to the header up there and the cat. So you're gonna try and take these bolts out. Chances are, I'm gonna tell you now, you're gonna snap the heads off. It's just the way it is. A lot of people, all they do is they take a reciprocating saw and they cut the bolt right here in the center. But as you can see, I've already snapped the head off of one. I'm gonna take my 13 and see if that one loosens or snaps the head off. Well, that side's actually coming out. Like I said, just take your ratchet and keep on going. It'll go on forever. It's got to clean all those rusted threads. Take a look at that beauty. Nice. And see how there's only a quarter thread there? Oh, either way, you should always replace your manifold bolts anytime you take them out, because these things take a kicking. Let's face it, it's really, really hot down there. And if you have ever had a turbo vehicle, then you know that these guys get nice and hot. After a bit further inspection, as you can see here, these bolts up here are probably gonna have to come out. Now you can see those bolts down there and it's like, oh, sweet, I could totally just disconnect. Well, this side you totally could. If I were you and you want to, leave this side in. Not a big deal. You can just take these two bolts out and you'll probably have to replace them because, well, those always rust. Always, and they will break, as you see in that video that I just showed you. Now, let's go to the other side. Over here, we have a lot more in the way. So it might make more sense for us to actually disconnect. Otherwise, as you can see, we have a chance of hitting our steering there. We have a lot of chance of hitting other things. And if you look down there, there's a spiral piece. And what it does is it goes like this. Actually, let's just show you. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up, but let's see. So if I go underneath here, see this swirly bit? Well, that's all one piece right up to the cat. So even if we completely disconnect this, which I'm still gonna do because I'm gonna actually pull the cats right out of the way. You don't need to do this if you don't want to. I'm going to do it. But again, I'm gonna just loosen off this last bolt. This one's easy to get at, but the one that's up there is after this piece right here. Before you start taking them out, I would suggest compressing and removing your O2 sensors. Now keep in mind, they might be a little bit dirty. Let's see if we can get it. Oh, I can feel the darts in this one. There we go. All right, and then there's one more right there in the very back. See if I can show you it. Let's zoom in. See that white connector right there? Same thing, compress and disconnect. So both O2 sensors are done on this side. Do the same thing with the other side. First thing you want to do, take this panel popper, pop this, pop this. After you do that, this big wiring harness is out of the way and you'll be able to access these plugs easier. And in here, I mean, it's really tight to get your fingers in there. So what I did is I just reached down there, compressed the O2 sensor with the tab like this, just press and then pull on the plug and it came out. Did the same with the white, compress, pull the plug out, and then you'll see that there's one more little C-ring that's on here. That little C-hook, let's see if I can show you it. This little thing right here, the holder. Make sure you disconnect that from the motor, because if you are, or when we do undo these bolts, we want that to be free and you don't want it to hang up on here later. So like I said, there'll be a C that's pressed in on one of these motor clamps right here. Just make sure you get it with the panel popper, pop it out of the way. So that way these are just dangling here and not connected to the motor.
Once you've gone ahead and got the two bolts that are holding these flanges together, you should be able to move this Y pipe back. Now we know this is free-ish. Now let's go up top and get those two bolts out. Crack this bolt loose, then crack that bolt loose. And if I were you, I'd pull out this one or that one, whatever going to be easier for you to grab afterwards. So I'd probably pull out this one. Then you're going to try and hold on to this pipe when taking this one out, and then you're going to pull the pipe out through the top. So like I said, once you get the two top bolts out, from here you should be able to lift this out. It should be in the flange. It goes up like this. This is what I mean by the flange. Hopefully that shows up on the camera. So you don't have to worry about the two bottom bolts. Those leave in there, they're part of it. If you need to convert it, you can. Always, when taking these off, and when you go to put them back on, always replace the gasket. For these manifold bolts, make sure you come in through the fender well. If you haven't already, make sure you pull out your fender wells. Once you get those bolts out, you'll notice that O2 sensor, see how there's a little hook right there? Let's see if I can zoom this in. Make sure you take that wire out of the hook, otherwise you have a possibility of breaking that sensor. So slip that wire out, and then of course lift and pull it out through the bottom on this side. So this is the back of your transfer case. You'll see your drive shaft right here. What we need to do is pull out all those drive shaft bolts. So what you can always do if you want is I would take a pen and mark it all the way down your drive shaft. So go right here, black marker all the way down. Why, do you ask? Well, if you do that, then you know exactly how everything went. So like I said, take a black marker and put a big black line all the way down, so that way you can line it all back up the way it was. I'd totally be lying if I said I did them all by hand. There's just too many. So I just put my ratchet out down for a second and I grab my impact. And just like that, it's free. Now that should be all the bolts. I'm gonna double check with my fingies. Make sure. After it is, you might have to give it a love tap with a mallet, but that should come off. Give it a little bit of a tap, not a whammy or anything, just a tap. And then I seen it separate a little bit up top, used my pry bar and pried the flange away a little bit, and away she came. Leave this over here like that. Next thing we're gonna wanna do is 18 mils, take off this protector plate. So, should be 4 18s. This is quite heavy, so catch it as you will. And then we'll move that plate out of the way so we have better access. And it also will allow our drive shaft to come down. Once you get that plate out of the way, it's time for a whole nother set of bolts. Yay! Go ahead and pull out all those 8 mils next. And remember, if you really need to, you can always lift one tire to rotate the drive shaft if needed. This plate is now removed. Let's go over here, grab a ratchet, and do the same with this plate. There's 3 bolts, one here, one right there, and one in that corner. Remove them, and then after that, we can get all those other drive shaft bolts that are right there. You can see all of them. So that's for your front drive shaft. So remember to put your black mark and remove those too. All right, quick tip for getting that gap in there. See this little hole in here in the bottom of the drive shaft? Even a small screwdriver, if you get it in there, you should be able to separate it a bit. And after you get it to right about there, then use your bigger pry bar. Do not try to pry with a screwdriver like this. You will break it. Now, if you're looking right above the drive shaft, where it was, you'll see a linkage. Now, for security purposes, I always suggest getting a pry bar in there and taking the linkage off. Make sure it's off, stuff like that. All right, now if we look through that hole, see that little yellow clip up there? Get it with your finger like so and pull it down. Work both sides out, and then you should be able to get this out. So even if you squeeze it, there's no way I'm gonna be able to hold this steady without making you guys sick. But let's see. Yeah,
So basically just squeeze that and pull down, and then that'll free your line up there. Now we need to do the same thing to the transmission side. So see right here, see that black nub? Get your crowbar in there and separate that shifting cable away from the nub once again. We're gonna come up here and we're gonna pop this out of here. Give me 1 second, I'll show you how. All right, so you're gonna start to rotate this, and you'll see as you start to rotate it, that metal piece comes out. Perfect, right? And then what you're gonna do is take a bit of a pry bar and start continuing it out. Just like that. Just the other thing we're trying to do, after we get that first metal pin out, you'll see there's a second one. So try, after you get out there, keep some pressure with the crowbar and then press down on the black and get this other pin out, and this should slide right out. Once you successfully get both sides of that pin out, just grab it and pull it out. Like I said, you just have to compress both these springs so you can flip out your throttle cable. Put these off to the side. You do not want these to get caught up on anything. When you're pulling it, you can see these are free. Through there in the window, let's show you. Get a little closer. There we go. See that connector? We got to disconnect it because we're going to take the transfer case off. So that way we can pull the transmission and the engine out as a whole. So to do that, to pop the transfer case off, we are going to need that unplugged, and we don't want the chance of accidentally breaking that when we take it off. So I would highly suggest reaching up there any way you can. You might be more comfortable through the back, and that's why I'm showing you it now, because I'm going to probably reach up and over the rear of it, and you cannot see the plug. You have to feel for it. All right, so for releasing these, what we need to do is just like we did up top when we released the other one. Oh, well, yeah, just like that. Basically, you need to move that red clip frontward. I don't even know why I'm trying to show you, because it's impossible. I had 5 different ways to show you guys this, but we'll see if this one has any luck. If not, this is my last attempt. Basically, what we're doing is we're getting in here, from which the light keeps changing position. And see that? Aha. So I had an extra vacuum cap. I capped off my gas tank for right now. Afterwards, that way it should cut down on some of the fumes that are going to come out of that tank. And then later on, I'm going to be doing a couple other things, and I won't actually be using the recirc valve anymore. But the 15/16 and go ahead and loosen off this transmission line and let it drain all the way out, like I said. And then once you do that, go and grab the other line, another 15/16, loosen it out, and it shouldn't drain nearly as much as this one. So the transmission lines really didn't drain that much, only a little bit. Take your panel popper. You'll see the last thing holding the transmission lines in is that little plastic clip up there on the lines. Pop it off, and you might as well just take these lines and put them out of the way. So like I said, you don't have to do this. I'm going to do it, one, to make my transfer case lighter, because I want to remove it off the back of the transmission when I pull it out. So if you want to make it a little lighter, it's not going to be much lighter, but I think that's what, 5/32, 3/8. Go ahead, put it in here and pull that out and let it drain out. Take a look right here. See this bolt right here? Take it out. Right here, there's going to be a little safety door, so that way we can access the bolts to the torque converter. Look down there. You can see our flex plate. Almost said flywheel. Either way, what's going to happen is we're going to be turning the crank, and when we do, that will turn. And what you're going to have to do is loosen the torque converter bolts with a box wrench through that little hole. Unfortunately, that's the only hole that they give you to do this with. Going to use this as an example because it's going to be the easiest way to show you. So over in these locations, there's going to be bolts. What you're going to want to do is only come out like 1 thread, 2 threads at a time. Continue to turn the flex plate. Haha, almost said flywheel again. And then as you're loosening them, you'll slowly
get to a point where, okay, they're all cracked loose, take them out. Take out this one, take out that one, and then take out those two, and so on and so forth. The reason why I say this is because if you were to just right away undo all of them on one side, what could happen, like even if you removed one bolt, you could remove one bolt and then just make this one loose. As you turn around, remove one bolt, make this one loose, remove one bolt and make that one loose. The reason why I say to do it in small increments is if you make one all the way in or anything like that, the torque converter can sit weird, and then you can either A, possibly damage the pump, B, it'll get caught on the screw heads because it'll be pushing the flex plate. So that's why you just want to do them a couple threads at a time. So like I said, couple threads, couple threads, couple threads, couple threads, couple threads, couple threads, and continue on and so forth. So what I did is I went to a smaller ratchet rather than a breaker so I could rotate it. And if you look in that hole, see how you can see those screw heads? So like I said, the best way to do it now is you can hold that ratchet and then you come down here and you're going to come down here with a box wrench and you're going to loosen it. So make sure your ratchet is set on the opposite way so you can hold that wrench while you loosen the two bolts over here, and then rotate, then loosen the other two, rotate, loosen the other two. And like I said, from there, just once they've all been cracked loose, you can start to back them off a few more turns. You'll be able to actually do it with your hands probably at some point, and then just pop out all the bolts. Try not to drop them in there. If you do, not a big deal, because, well, this isn't so bad. It's just going to suck really badly if you drop them in there when you are putting a new 3.6 on. With me, I'm lucky. I'm switching to the hemi, so it's got that big plate, big access hole, and I can't wait because this really, really sucks. So I just went through my first pass, which is the hardest. Once you crack these suckers loose, like I said, you can almost do them by hand. And just make sure, like I said, that, yeah, it's just that first pass. Like literally now I can turn them no problem with this. Well, after continuously rotating, like I said, and going up and over here, we've now got all our bolts. It was originally like 1 to 2 threads till it touched the block. Now this one is touching the block and there's nothing I can do. So from this point, when I pull the motor out, what I'll do is I'll separate the bell housing from the motor, and then I'll either A, be able to slide it back, and then I'll have to take them out some more, or maybe this is just Chrysler saying to themselves, hey, this will hold the bolts and this is how much you need and the torque converter is free now. But I'm pretty sure I still heard the torque converter moving a bit. So we'll see. Other than that, can't do any more from here. The best you could do is if you were going to leave your transmission in the vehicle, all you would do from this point is you could unbolt all these bell housing bolts, and then you could leave the transmission in here. But what you'd have to do as well is after we get all these bell housing bolts out, you would have to come over here to the mount, and we'd have to loosen the mount. You can see there's a jacking point here. You'd put your jack here, undo your mount, and you could undo the bell housing bolts, like I said, and slide the transmission back, and then you could lift the engine out. I don't suggest doing that. I suggest attaching the transmission outside of the vehicle and bringing it in. But this is completely up to you and what you want to do. For me, the next step is to come over here, and I'm going to start by taking out these 2 gas tank bolts right here. Now this is back to being an 18, so take out the 2 bolts that are attaching the gas tank cover to your transmission brace. Next thing you're going to want to do, see I have that jack right underneath the transfer case just like that. So that's going to hold it while we take off our transmission mount. Basically what you're going to want to do first is go underneath here and undo the bolts going to your transmission mount. I think they are going to be 17s or 18s. Once you pull these bolts out though, that brace will be free from here, like the actual mount. Once the mount's free, we're going to take out these bolts. You should have a total of 3/16. If you're wondering why I have the ridiculous extension on it, so that way when it gets loose, I can do it by hand. But it is ridiculously long. And then, once you get these 3 acorns out, we'll start on the side bolts. 18 on this side of the bolt, like that, as you can see. That's the transmission brace or the cross member right there. And if you come in on the back side, inside the gas tank area, you'll see the nuts. So take out the one that's obviously right there first, and then take off the inside one. Try not to drop them, but if you do, you should be able to snag them from the other side of the gas tank guard pan there. So what I always suggest doing is loosening all 4 bolts. So take that one out, but leave the bolt itself inside without the nuts. Then go to the other side, take those out, slip both bolts out on that side, and then it'll swing down and then slip out both of the bolts on this side. And you should be able to just tap that brace right down and out of the way. And of course the light's aiming directly at it, but this is your transmission brace. So what you're gonna wanna do is take something like this, put it against the frame, and then pry down. So watch. And then as you do that, this, depending, there you go, see, slip down. Again, it's because I was dumb and I left that stupid light aiming this way that you can't see anything. But let's see if you can see it from here. See how this is now come down? Now I have all this leverage. Now what you're gonna wanna do is as you do it, you're gonna slide it out from the gas tank pan so you don't have to remove the whole skid. So what you do is you grab it from right here. You'll see these little round holes on the inside. See those? Finally, the lighting at least helped with one thing. Just grab it and pull it. So you just wanna yank it and pull, and it'll slip towards you. And just keep a note that it's gonna make a loud bang when she hits the ground, or if you have someone else to catch on the other side, that's even better. There was a sneaky bolt on the bottom right here. So there's a bolt right there, and then you've got all the bolts easier to access on the side there. You can barely see my finger because lighting is poor. Go figure, under an engine bay. As you can see, I got a couple of the bolts out. Now to get the other ones, you're gonna need, I believe that's a 16 up there. Take the 16 bolt so this tube holder is completely out of the way. That way you can actually have a chance, otherwise you're never gonna get them out. When you're popping everything off, you'll probably see there's a tube behind this metal bracket right here. See, let's see. See how I'm moving it? Grab it and pull up on it. And what you'll do is you'll release the diff breather. There we go. Which is this tube right here. Don't want any chance of it getting caught when you're taking it down. I just got the top bolt, which was a little bit easier. Now I'm gonna try getting this one. Like I said, you have to be creative with this. You have to play with different sockets for every single bolt. They just barely fit in here. If you have some ratchets, those ones that like bend over, they'll probably be the easiest. I really don't know why when they designed this plate that they didn't put like a hole in it. I mean, it's just for this bracket, right? So why not just put a little creative hole right here so that way you could move the ratchet up and down? I mean, maybe I'm thinking German engineering rather than Chrysler engineering. But don't they get their stuff from Mercedes anyway? So for this annoying one right here at the bracket, what I ended up doing was I bent the bracket a little bit over. I just got so done with it, slipped the socket on the bolt, and then slowly was able to just squeeze a ratchet in here from bringing it in on an angle and then loosened it. Again, it's gonna be tight and you're gonna wanna rip your hair out if you have any. Only way I could get that bolt. If you have some bendable wrenches and stuff like that, might be able to get in there. I couldn't even get in there with a bendable ratchet and stuff. It's just one of those awkward spots. There's probably a specialty socket that's like a mid-range between what I have. And if you have it, good on you. Definitely for those transfer case bolts, 14 millimeter that you can do that with is gonna make a massive difference. If you take a look there, you can see that gap in between. That tells us right there that it's now separated. So I've taken the jack out of the way, and from this point, you can
try a couple different methods, but I like to do the catch method. Now, that's why this is pretty low, so that way it doesn't have far to go, meaning that I'm going to get underneath this thing, I'm going to pull that bolt out and slowly slip it out. Keep in mind, she's got weight, so don't put your head underneath it. Don't do anything like that. You feel the weight of it. You're going to feel the weight as you wiggle it, and it's got some weight. If you can incorporate the jack, do so, but I've always caught them, but you need to be careful. All in all, that was a nice clean lift down, and that transfer case didn't seem as heavy as the Dodge one that I had to take out, so I'll give it that. Other than that, I'm going to leave that there for right now. Got my jack stand sitting right here on the transmission, and the next thing that we get to do is get our cherry picker ready so that way we can pull this motor out, because that is literally the only thing left. Everything's been disconnected. We can see all the way up there. We've disconnected the tubing. Make sure this is all kind of wrapped up so you'll be able to get it out there, although it's probably just going to fling out and get caught on something anyway. So that's why when we pull this out, it's going to be a very slow, tedious process. Cool thing though, these engine mounts, we'll be able to loosen them and actually start to lift the motor before we take it out, because they're actually on like a half C. They're not actually in a full circle for the bolt, so we should be able to lift it out of the holder like that. It'll make more sense when we get up top. But once again, take one last look down here. Look for anything that might get caught. And other than that, we look like we're good to go.
What? You're going to get underneath and clean everything up?
So, to make life a little easier, I think it's best that we remove this intake manifold. It's going to help a lot when it comes to pulling out the engine. And the reason why is if we pull out the intake manifold, what'll end up happening is we have more equal grabbing distance. I'm kind of worried that if we go to lift the engine, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the intake manifold since it sits to one side. Unlike a V8 and other where it sits kind of dead even in between the two, this one sits so far over that the strap or chain, whatever you have here, is going to be pulling on this quite a bit. I think it's safer to, like I said, pull it out. Not too hard at all. To pull the intake manifold, you are going to have to replace gaskets if you're putting this motor back in, or you don't have to, I just highly suggest it. Put an 8mm on, make sure you're on reverse. You'll notice that I'm able to pull this out with a regular old impact. So, why is this important to note? So you can see that these bolts are not in there that tight. If you go ham and start trying to get these out, or sorry, put these in with an impact, there's a high chance you're going to strip it out. I highly suggest you don't do that. All right, so now that we have that, I believe, yes, I might have to get my, I'll have to get my ratchet. There's one more. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's one more right back here from which you will need a ratchet or something to get in behind here with. After we do that, I'll show you the plate over there. Next thing, make sure you pull the safety back if it'll come out, and then you're gonna wanna squeeze and pull this bugger out. From there, this unclips from here. If you want, grab your little orange panel popper. I'm just seeing if I can, I'm gonna grab it. Pop this one out, pop that one out. You'll have another connector right here. Undo it from here. So we'll pop this one, these. Actually, nope, this one pop as well. Actually, no, that one's on the bottom of the valve cover. So leave that, but we are gonna have to undo these two bolts right here. So go ahead and do that, and do those two bolts right there. That one, this one, and this one. Next, pull this tab back, and then you're gonna wanna push this forward so it's like that. Once you've pushed it forward, press in these clips and pull back. So again, pull back here, that, press clips, and then like that. Now that we've got this out of the way, you can pry this clip out of the way with your orange tool, and then there'll be 2 more bolts right here. We might have to take off these ones. I might just do that for the heck of it. These 2 bolts right here, and these 2 bolts right here. Pull that plate out of the way. We should be able to lift and bring it out. It'll have to come towards the camera here because it's in those other metal brackets on that side. I think it's my back bolt. There we go. Lift it up. Now. You'll notice I put some of my towels over top, just like this. You can either do this, or if you have some painter's tape, slap some painter's tape all the way across all of those cylinder holes, so that way nothing falls inside. Unless you don't care because you're doing a full rebuild of your motor, then I guess it doesn't matter because you're going to clean everything out and vacuum it out anyway. So from there, now we can start looking at good mounting spots to either mount your straps, or maybe you're going to tie them around something. As you can see, I'm using an engine balancer. I found out that if I simply move these clips out of here, should just probably move the clips out first, but hey, whatever. Okay, that one didn't like that. And then there's one more right there. If I remove these 2 clips, then I can take out that bolt down there, and there's one more there. This metal bracket will come out of the way, and I can bolt both of these to the manifold. So this one and this one can get bolted to the manifold, and the other 2 can get bolted to the manifold. So I can do just like I wanted to do initially, but just without the manifold being in place. Well, as you can see, they're here. They'll hold. That's on there, that's on there. I'm glad we took that intake manifold off. Without that being off, there's no way that would have worked. So now that we've gotten that far, you can do 2 things. You can either A, roll in your cherry picker and get that all hooked up, or B, you can release the engine mounts. It doesn't really actually matter because the engine mounts, like I said, if we are looking at them, if you feel, they're actually a U engine mount. So they go like this on both sides. So you should be able to just loosen the bolt and the engine should actually just lift out of the mount. Pretty neat stuff. If you look down there, see that piece of tin foil, that's your heat shield on your engine mount. There are 2 10mm bolts. You can see one of them right there on it. Just take those 2 10mm bolts out, and then take that out of the way so we can access the engine mount.
Oh, right there, if I focus in, see, you can see one side of the bolt on the right and then one side of the bolt on the left. So throw an 18mm on one side and an 18mm on the other, and then loosen it. Now you'll probably get it to be able to spin without actually putting the ratchet on it, but make sure you loosen both ends up so that way the mount's sitting in there loose for when we lift it. Go and do that to both sides.
This is the most dangerous part of everything we've done. When we lift this, slow. It's got to be slow, and you've got to monitor the motion of the engine. So we're just going to start to lift. Now, as you lift, like I said, monitor everything. Hoses behind, transmission down below. It's going to be a very slow process. And we're free. So again, I'm going to check my transmission. Transmission's looking fine on the bottom. I'm going to lift it a little bit. There we go. It's off the jack down below. And then from here,
Now, we've got the motor free. It's time to start lifting. Be gentle. Now the next thing I'm also going to do is I want to feel it. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, it's heavy, extremely heavy, so you got to have a place to go. So I've got this right here. Now, whether you have a tire or something, have somewhere you can immediately put this down.
You're probably not going to be able to see much. I'm going to rotate the camera to show you what I'm doing.
So there'll be a couple blocks of wood right here. But there'll be 2x6s, maybe 2x4s, we'll see. And then 2x6 back here, and that should support the engine. And then we'll put one in the back to support there. So, like I said, I got a little bit more trail to clear right here. And getting it onto this platform is going to be an absolute nightmare, but I'm up for the challenge. All right, so next is to start rotating. Now, I don't expect to get that transmission over, so I'm going to lift the transmission up and over after I get these feet proper. All right. So as you can see, we're now right here. Now the transmission, it's going to be heavy. Oh. Oh. Off comes the light bar cover. There we go. And now, we're free. At least I can see where I had a bit of an oil leak. The oil cooler lines. Out of all things, the oil cooler lines started to leak. So, we'll see if I can use this pallet. I might not actually be able to use the pallet because it's too wide for the stand. But if I can't, that's fine. I'll just put it on blocks in the cement for right now. Let's just flip this pallet out of the way. If I can negotiate it later, I will. That's insane. Course. Don't do that. That's against safety regulations. Then Rich, why did you do it? Because I'm YouTube certified. Jesus. Oh, there we go. Wheels are straight now. So, we're almost there. Like I said, slow but sturdy. Oh, hey, I almost pulled the shaft right out of the thing again. Okay. Don't break that harness. Okay. So, I can guarantee you this pallet ain't working. Which is fine.
I'll just negotiate everything with wood. I can't wait to have a garage that isn't full of stuff again. Yay! Okay. So, now we need to start bringing her down. When you bring it down nice and slow so that way you can set your blocks up for the back and then for the front. Just to show you this part a little bit, I already have the backing of the transmission leaning down a little bit. We're coming down on a bit of an angle like I wanted, so that way I can still get around the motor, and then we slowly come down. Oh. Let's see here. Right about here. Just like that. And there she sits. Seems happy there. But yeah, like I said, I did that with a few boards, and you can see the transmission automatically lifts itself up in the back. We should still be able to get a hold of those bell housing bolts. If not, we can always use a jack a little bit on the back end and lift it up, and it'll lean on that front board. One thing I automatically noticed, like I said, is I noticed that every now and then I'd smell some burning oil. My oil cooler is leaking. Go figure. So either way, I'm switching out to the Hemi, and that is all there is to pulling a 3.6 liter motor out. Now let's go over a couple things that I think are important. One, you're gonna have to replace some bolts. One, I would always suggest replacing your engine mount bolts for if you are putting another 3.6 in. When you do your drive shaft, make sure you replace your drive shaft bolts. While you have your new engine apart, especially if it's used, change your valve cover gaskets. While you have the valve cover off, check your rockers and lifters. Those little rocker lifters tend to go on these things, and it's worth swapping them all out if you want to. After you do that, and you've switched the valve cover, make sure the intake manifold that you took off, you switch those bolts, or not bolts, but the gaskets as well. Those gaskets, that'll make such a big difference. I mean, heck, if you really wanted to go as far as you wanted to, you could also do your head gaskets while it's out and the timing. But again, it just depends on how far the rabbit hole you want to go. Either way, 3.6 is out. Like I said, make sure that you replace those drive shaft bolts. And if you, I don't know, stripped out any other bolts, make sure you replace them as well. Thanks again for watching. And to put this back in, just watch this video in reverse and replace the bolts that I told you to. Other than that, if you want to see how I'm putting the Hemi inside the Jeep, go look at the channel. It's coming soon.